to the Dream 100 Show, the epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tasner.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's edition of the Dream 100 Show. I have a very special guest this week, Isabelle Mercier, and she works at an amazing business with her partner. Isabelle and Margarita run this amazing company, Leapstone Strategies, that is all about branding. And I'm using the word branding with air quotes because they do so much more than simply just branding. So we're going to have a really fun conversation today. And as our listeners know, one of the big pieces within the Dream 100 framework that we talk about is getting your house in order by way of your social media, your websites, your company websites. Get your brand assets in order before you start reaching out. So Isabelle, it is such a pleasure to have you here today.
Absolute pleasure to be here. And as you say, branding is so much more than what people think branding is, because when you hear branding, most people think visual, and visual part of branding is very important, but it's so much more than that. And branding is all about building a culture. You know, if you don't stand for anything, you will fall for everything. And that's what brand is about. It's about really capturing what you believe in, who you are, how your business makes life better, why someone would choose you instead of a competitor, regardless of price. That's all part of what a brand actually is, you know?
And it's interesting because I think even a lot of times for myself, I think I've lasered in on the visual elements. Hey, I don't love how our logo looks or our stationery, or let's play around with the website. But to your point, and even like your website is an amazing example. When I went through everything, I mean, you've got, I think it's the 12 different things that you and Margarita stand for.
Yeah.
And they're not just like simple things like always be branding or something. Like, I mean, we do things exceptionally well because we love them or we love it. I mean, life and business by design, not by default.
Yeah.
So to your point, I think a lot of our listeners, they get so entrenched in just thinking about the visuals and it is everything spelled correctly, but they miss all of that other fun human element and the culture aspect to the brand.
Totally. Absolutely.
So if you were working with an entrepreneur, and I know you both have worked with lots of entrepreneurs and had some amazing transformations, and I was looking at a lot of your work before a call, what would be some starting points? So as you know, again, with the Dream 100, we'll say you've got to make sure that your brand, and again, I use the word brand with air quotes, because if you're only looking at the visual piece, to your point, you're going to miss out on a lot. Where would you, I guess, start in the brand audit process, for example? And I know that's a little bit of a loaded question, but if someone was getting ready to start to do some heavy outreach to try and land some bigger clients, some bigger relationships, and they wanted to make sure that their brand was cleaned up a little bit, are there some things, some strategies, some questions, some tactics that you would kind of go through with them?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we have our own private retreat center specifically to do this work, to lift our sleeves and do this work. I'm in the retreat center right now. My office is there. It's called Trailblazers, and people fly from all over the world, spend a few days with us so we can uncover, dust off, sculpt, distill their brand foundation. So first, as I answer your question, I'd love to first start by really explaining the difference between what a brand is, what positioning is, and what marketing is, because a lot of people put these three things into compile it into one. Yeah, like they combined it together, and it's absolutely very different. So branding, positioning, and marketing, if you were to look at the body's organs, it'd be the heart, the liver, and the kidneys, for example. Those are all organs, very important to the body, but they have different jobs, different roles. So branding is how your products, your services make people feel. It's a feeling, it's about emotion, it's about creating a sense of belonging. Positioning is the reasons why your customers would choose you, right? Regardless of price. So if there's 3 quotes side by side and you are more expensive than the other 2, why would your prospects and clients be compelled to pick you regardless of price? And marketing, those are the actions that you take to let people know that you're the best opportunity, the best choice for them. And unfortunately, most people don't understand marketing at all, right? They think marketing is hype or it's control or it's advertising. Marketing is telling a story, a simple story that actually resonates, that is true, and that helps make life better. And it's also about being, if I could remove the word marketing from the dictionary, I would replace it by being the leader of the conversation. So what conversation or conversations do you want to be the leader of? And then it's about being out there leading those conversations, be it through website, blogging, podcasting, ebooks, white papers, being the leader of a certain conversation. So in terms of getting to branding, you asked me, what are some of the things that people can do to start cleaning up their act, right? Their experience, the whole experience of their brand. First of all, you have to be, as an organization, you have to be clear about how you want to leave people feeling. It's 1 or 2 words. In fact, I don't care for mission statements. In fact, it's a swear word at Leap Zone. What we care about is 1 or 2 words that your whole organization can get behind and deliver come rain or shine every single day.
Do you have some examples on that one before we go too much more down the rabbit hole? Like that's, I think, an extremely powerful takeaway for our listeners, that to have, 1 or 2 words. What would be maybe some good examples of brands that you're like, they fit our mold of exactly the way that we teach?
Well, I'll give an example of our brand just as a simple, because we're not a massive global brand that people could go, oh yeah, well, they're big, they have that. Let's take a small example. Our brand, we want to leave people feeling on fire and unstoppable. Everything we do as a team needs to deliver that every single day. Do we deliver it every day? Yes. Do we fail at delivering it every day? Yes. But we know, and it's like a little true north, like a little elastic that reminds me. So my employees, instead of coming to me and going, Isabelle, I'd like to make this change, or this doesn't work for me, they'll go, in the spirit of leaving people feeling on fire and unstoppable, I feel like this is not aligning with that. So on fire and unstoppable. And that can really change. Another company that we've worked with, SMS Engineering in Canada, they want to leave people feeling excited and confident. They're an engineering firm. And as a result of that, their whole team is behind that. They help each other feel that during the day internally, but also they're selling more. They're making life better more. They're converting prospects to clients more as a result of that internal intention. And by the way, I say internal intention because you're not going to find, you visited my website, you didn't see on fire and unstoppable anywhere. It's not about saying it. It's about delivering it, being that. And that's
that's a really great point, because when I would think of kind of owning, and maybe there's a distinction between you want them to be the leader in that conversation. So I would use the word, I guess, authority. And there's a lot of people that use that buzzword all over the place.
No.
You want to be the authority in your space or your niche, et cetera. And it's interesting how you're like, hey, I'd love to remove the word marketing and have it be more of you leading the conversation. So that's a really interesting way to think about it.
Yeah.
I guess when I've thought of those 2 or 3 words, maybe my brain goes to tactical and would say, so like if I was an engineering firm, we want to own residential engineering or something, or local marketing.
But that's a different ingredient. That is about who you're wanting to do business with. What I'm saying here about the internal mission, the energetic mission, is how do we want our brand, anybody that comes in touch with our brand, how do we want to leave them feeling? So branding has many different ingredients: energetic mission, brand promise, X factor, premise, have a client avatar. All these things are like organs to the body. They all have a different job, and each of them are important, equally important to the whole. in this case, the body, in business, the brand, the business, but they all have different jobs. So first, how do you want to leave people feeling? 1 or 2 words, and it's not about you. You're not going to plaster that on your website. Don't worry about. So there's a company an automotive repair shop, and nobody really likes to waste time repairing their cars at a repair shop. So they, as a result of this single ingredient, they actually created a feeling of hell yeah, although they used the word F. I don't want to say it, but
I know what you mean.
But that's internal, right? And so we'll replace it by hell yeah right now. So they want to leave people feeling hell yeah. So what they did internally, they created a little cafe for people to wait and be able to work and have fun while they're waiting for their cars. That place became real big. It became a real big hell yeah. And they were able to actually grow to a point where they could sell. And that wasn't as a result of a beautiful new logo, although that's also important because it creates trust and reminds people that you're trustworthy and you're someone that they can be loyal to. However, that hell yeah got them to really shift their actions, their culture, the way they do things, because branding is about whom you are being while you are doing. And by changing that emotion internally and by demonstrating it and not talking about it, that's what creates a brand that people want to be at, be loyal to, and belong with, you know?
No, I love it. And it's a different way. It's just a different way that I haven't thought about it like this in quite some time. And I think it's going to challenge me and hopefully challenging our listeners to make sure that you're doing, how can I phrase this? You're doing the stuff that you often will skip over. So a lot of people will skip over the feelings. Now let's just get right to the tactics and let's make sure that we're picking the fonts that we want to use. And they resort to the stuff that they feel is the only piece of branding. And it's interesting because I was at a conference last week in Austin, Texas, and it wasn't a branding event. It was all about very successful e-commerce companies and aiming to help my wife kind of build an e-commerce company from the ground up. Yeah. So I wanted to just go and just be in the space and glean some insights. And I thought I was going to hear a lot, but all 100% tactics, like launch a Shopify site, establish your brand. And there were some tactical stuff, but the people that were ridiculously successful, they talked more about the feelings. They talked more about what a lot of people label fluffy, like you actually have to believe it. And I know it's right on your website with Henry Ford and the book Think and Grow Rich. And it's not that I never believed in any of that, but I don't think that I go in stages. And like I had a while where I was in the culture stage where I'm like, now culture, not really overly important. And then I kept hearing it year after year after year after year. In the last couple of years, I've been hearing more about it's the emotional side and people have to connect to the emotions. So
at the end of the day, Michael, at the end of the day, people are not buying a product. They're buying how they feel, how that product makes them feel. Think of Nike. Everybody knows Nike. Look at any Nike ad. They never talk about the quality of the soles of the shoes, the laces, you'll never find a Nike advertisement that actually sells their product. What does Nike sell? We all think they sell athletic shoes and athletic wear. Wear is the word I was looking for. But no, they sell athleticism. They sell possibility. That's what people want. If you're an Apple user, in fact, Apple is a great example. The Apple phone is by far not the best phone on the planet. Yet it's one of the most expensive phones. And a third of planet Earth has decided that they're thrilled to throw $1,200, $1,300, $1,500 on a phone that's actually not the best phone. Why is that? That's not because of the product. It's because of the sense of belonging. It's because Apple has told everybody, you're more creative with an Apple product. You're more innovative with an Apple product. You have better tools at your fingertips with an Apple product. So it is about how you make people feel. But on the same pathway, you can't just go by feeling. You have to have the ingredients in line, the energetic mission. Then it's the brand promise. What does your brand promise? What is it a tantalizing promise? It can't be we have the best people and we have the best quality. If you're in business, of course, you have to have and provide great quality. It's a staple in business nowadays. So you have to find what is the tipping point that's going to get people to go, oh my God, this makes sense. I want me some of that. From the brand promise, then you need to go to the X factor, which is really what makes you unique and different, so that if there's 2-3 quotes side by side and you're more expensive, why would people still... The phrase that I often use is, I would be a fool to do business with anyone else but you, regardless of price. So if you're the most expensive quote out of the 3, 4, 5, 10, how do you make it that people would feel ridiculous to go somewhere else and they would feel better choosing you and spending more money with you? And now I'm not saying your brand has to be more expensive than anybody else. I'm not promoting that. I'm saying if you're building ingredients to ensure that if you were the most expensive, you'd still be chosen, don't you think you'd have a leg up?
No, 100%. Yeah, I remember hearing a speaker many years ago talk about the X Factor, Barrett Ursick, I believe. And he had, I want to say, like a fertilizing company, and it clicked at that stage. But I haven't rethought of the X Factor in quite some time until you brought it back up. And it makes complete sense, because a lot of our listeners, they're in a business that would normally be a commodity, for example. So whether there's 50 financial advisors that are in a particular city, for example, or 100 childcare centers, preschool centers in an area. And
that's right.
It makes complete sense.
And I'll say, especially for the X factor, which is very, very key in anyone with a business and a brand out there. If you're not clear and your whole team isn't clear about what makes you the first, the best, and the only, then you're leaving a ton of money on the table. And I don't care what size, I don't care what size company you have, I don't care if it's B2B, B2C, lifestyle. It's the same thing. And you've got to be very clear about your X factor. And I'll give you an example of a promise/X factor in an industry that's very commoditized. We have a client that is in the Quebec province, and they sell kitchen cabinets. Now, they have massive big competitors that are way, way bigger than them, and they weren't gaining enough business, and he really wants to grow his business, him and his team. And so we really looked at what they're capable of doing. They manufacture their own cabinets. And so as we discussed, and so they were here at Trailblazers, and as we spent time together, I brought to the table, because in this world, in the world of construction, what's happening right now in the world, and especially after COVID, is people make promises they can't keep. They have less employees than normal, so they can't deliver. They can't get the materials they need, so they can't deliver. So they sell with the promise of delivering, but then they don't deliver. And so I was talking to them going, okay, so if we really want to step out of the box, what if we promised delivered on time or it's free? And by the way, they sell to B2B. So they sell to big construction companies. So if you're a big construction company and you have 2-3 quotes, and this particular client is a little bit more expensive, but they promise to be delivering on time or it's free. If you have $1 million worth of kitchen cabinet that you're buying, which one are you going to go with? The person who has the promise and the guarantee, or someone who's just trying to play Russian roulette with you? See, certainty sells. So by being clear, so now, of course, in the room, there was a little bit of stress around the table, let me tell you. But the thing is, a good promise and a tantalizing X factor allows you or inspires you as an organization to grow and elevate and get better internally. Let me tell you, they've elevated their processes and systems. They have new shifts on the table in order to be able to deliver on that. They have things in place now to make sure that this will get delivered, and it will get delivered without fault. Otherwise, they're at stake of losing a lot of money. So those ingredients not only make you a better brand and a better team and a better culture, now they're a culture of problem solving instead of tomorrow we'll think about that. No, today, right now, let's solve it. And also for clients, again, if you have many quotes and that provides you with certainty, of course you're going to go with certainty. So that all plays roles.
Lots of really great takeaways there. I mean, certainty sells, I think, is a big one. But in thinking that through of how you explained it, it's interesting because the X factor then push them to get better. Like, okay, great. So we want to have this X factor. We want to separate ourselves from all the big gorillas, the big behemoths in the industry. We're going to make this bold promise, but we're going to have to level up our culture, our organization, our team. So that's really interesting to, instead of just making the promise, I mean, obviously that it's the business and a lot of money is on the line. So it ultimately forces you to really move that needle.
To deliver. And I'll say that uncovering these ingredients, this engineering firm had been trying to get an X factor for 55 years. While working together, we got it in one morning. Because when you're in the pickle jar, as you well know, you can't see the label, right? You can't see the calorie label. You can't see the ingredient label. You're in it. You can't see it. Working with someone such as me, people you know in your lives that do brand positioning and brand strategy for a living, that's what we're able to see. We're able to take the intangible and make it really tangible. And a lot of people would say, yeah, but Isabelle, you've given a product example. Well, there are businesses that offer services like me, for example. And my X factor is my Leap Zone trifecta methodology of positioning, personality, and performance. So most companies who do what we do focus on one of these three pillars. And we take care of all three pillars, and we have our own unique, proven of 30 years methodology that gets things done and well done. So if you're a service business that's in a commoditized industry, then you have ways to do things. You have a different experience, different combination of life and experience that you can bottle and coin in such a way that instead of just saying, oh, I'm a great coach and I have 30 years experience working with big brands, you can say all that and then go, and over the 30 years, we've created a methodology that is fail-proof called the Leap Zone trifecta. Let me walk you through it, right? So it's not just about we're good. It's about here's why we're good.
I love it. That's absolutely love it. And I mean, even just thinking back to the beginning of our conversation of how you're separating the brand and the positioning piece, to your point, a lot of people lump everything together. Obviously, with 30 years of practice and being in the weeds and I mean, having your own retreat center that people are coming to and working with lots of brands, it gives you a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah.
I know that you did a TED Talk, so changing topics a little bit. Would love to give our listeners maybe a couple of the cliff notes from your TED Talk, because it was extremely inspiring to me as I'm like started watching it. I'm like, yep, like agreeing with all this, but would love you to kind of give us the cliff note version.
Rarely do a human being delivers 2 TED Talks, but and it's certainly not for the faint of heart. I will tell you that. But yeah, my first TEDx is around diminishing worry, and it's all about. A lot of people talk about. I mean, there is an epidemic of worry out there, and we all worry about things that have already happened, will never happen. And it leaves very few things that are worthy of worrying about. And so in that talk, I talk about what you tolerate, you will end up worrying about. So instead of just like a lot of people would say, meditate, go for a walk, do some exercise. Those are all good things. And something even more tangible and more immediate would be look at what you're tolerating in your life, in your business. It could be a remote that's missing a battery. It could be a faucet that's leaking. It could be that you're tolerating someone's behavior that is stopping you from growing your business. Whatever it is that you're tolerating, make a list and then just pick one every day and bust it. Have the brave conversation. Do the thing that needs to be done in order to get rid of that toleration so that you can diminish automatically. When you get rid of toleration, it reduces worry right away, which is also a really great segue for the second talk, which was delivered with Margarita, which is about increasing units of happiness.
Love it.
And one of the principles in there is to not be afraid of having brave conversations. So much of our life is in stress and worry lies within conversation we should be having, or we should have said no to something we said yes to. And then now we have to backtrack or have that conversation. So not being afraid of having brave conversations, first of all, betters lives, betters businesses, and definitely has bettered my relationship with she's not just my business partner, she's also my life partner. So let me tell you, that adds a degree of difficulty in life.
Definitely. I know that you have a lot of books that you really like, and there were a couple that you were like, Michael, these are like 2 ones that are like an absolute must read. And they're not ones like, there's a lot of times I'll hear similar books like Think and Grow Rich. And that's an amazing book. Don't get me wrong. I just have been rereading it since Russell Brunson relaunched and bought a bunch of the original copies and such. But the 2 books that I know that you've talked about are not often mentioned. So I would love to hear those books that you would suggest our listeners go in and read.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 of them are from the same author, Greg McKeown, and one of them is Essentialism. It really is about the art of the vital few versus the trivial many. It is an easy read. I'm dyslexic. I don't like to read. I normally listen to books, but these 2 I've actually physically read, highlighted half the book. It was really, really good. Essentialism. And his second book is Effortless. And it really is about tips and strategies and tactics to simplify things so that you can get the right things done. And it's actually, again, real good and easy reads. And actually foundational and pivotal. I really, really, really enjoyed them. And the third one I will mention is Sitting on the Fence. This is written by my partner, Margarita. It's a journey, how to love without limits. And it's not a relationship book. It's a business book. It's a life book. It's how to actually include unconditional love in everything that we do. And branding is about making life better for you as a business owner, for your team, but also for people, the people that actually buy your products or experience your services. So Sitting on the Fence, How to Love Without Limits is it'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry, it'll make you think, and most of all, it'll make you make some pivotal shifts in your life. Those 3 books, absolutely pivotal.
Love it. That last point that you made about, repeat how you said it, regarding branding is about, did you say doing good,
It's about making life better for you, for your company, for your team, and for the people that experience your products and services.
Yeah, so listeners, take note of that, write that down. I think that was just an extremely well said point that I think it just really pushes the point home that branding and positioning and the emotional element are just so important. It's not just go and change your colors around and hire somebody from Fiverr to redo your logo and slap some words, but the emotional aspect is so darn important. I always love to ask this question last. It's just one of my favorite questions. But if we're looking back, and the timeline can be whatever timeline you would like, but how do you want to be remembered? So when people are looking back and they're talking about you or your business or your relationship or any area in your life or business, how do you want to be remembered?
I know that I'm on this planet to help people own their badassery, to really have them uncover and understand and own their badassery, and really utilize that to help them make life better for themselves and for others. So I would like to be remembered for a human being that is, and a brand that is working consciously at helping people live and operate by design, not by default.
Love it. Where can our listeners go to learn more about you and Margarita and Leap Zone strategies and all of that good stuff?
Yeah, our website is extremely filled. It's bursting at the seams with value, free masterclasses. So leapzonestrategies.com. In there, you have access to my online TV show called Leap TV, our podcast called Outcome Overcome. You have access to some masterclasses about how to build a strong brand that makes life better, how to differentiate yourself. So the website truly at leapzonestrategies.com is by far the best place to connect with us and learn for absolutely free. There's lots there.
Love it. So listeners, make sure you go and check out leapzonestrategies.com. I've done it. And to your point, I completely agree with you. The amount of free content that's on there and videos, but also even looking at branding and positioning through the lens of going through your website started to inspire me and give me some interesting ideas as well.
Nice.
Isabelle, it was an absolute pleasure to have you here. I hope our listeners start to take some of this information that you shared and get out there and start to transform their businesses and their lives.
Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure. And just remember that the visual side of your brand is actually constructed and built and uncovered by those internal ingredients that make you the first, the best, or the only.
Love it. There you have it. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. See you next week.